What is going on, guys, and welcome to a brand new, completely different video today. And we're not doing gaming, we're not doing reviewings, it's a bit of a vlog. I'm going to show you how to cook something. Now today we're going to do something specific. We're going to bake some bread, some plain regular white bread, and my dog's here to help us with it. Although I think she's going to be more of a hindrance than a help. She likes to get under my feet. Now, making bread is fairly easy, can be complicated. You need to get the ingredients correct and you need to make sure the temperatures are correct. You don't want to kill off the yeast or put too much salt in to kill the yeast or various other things that you can do. Now, with bread, it's going to take a long time because you need to obviously make the dough. You then need to prove the dough. You need to make it, knead it, prove it. That's the first 3 steps of the dough. You then want to knock it back, shape it to how you want it, and then leave it to prove again. And then it is time for baking. Now, baking it, if you have a proving oven, that's absolutely fantastic, because then you can control the temperature to exactly what you want. Or if in our case we have a double oven, which means I can set the bottom oven to a nice low temperature between 35 and 40 degrees, which is what the yeast loves, that temperature. It grows, and that is the best way to make your bread and make it double in size. If you don't have a proving oven or a double oven, you can either just pop it in your normal oven at that temperature, or pop it in a fridge overnight and leave it to prove overnight. Obviously that then takes even longer. Or you can pop it in a nice warm place, such as a conservatory on a nice hot day, an airing cupboard, or above a radiator, making sure that it doesn't get too hot, that it's going to overprove and kill the yeast. So a few of the things we're going to need today. Ingredients wise, we're going to need some strong white flour, some yeast, nice dry yeast, butter, castor sugar, milk, and some water. Now the measurements we're going to need: 500 grams of strong white flour, plus some for dusting when we need to knead the dough, 10 grams of yeast, 300 milliliters of milk and water, so that's 150 milliliters each, 20 grams of butter, 10 grams of castor sugar, and a teaspoon of salt. Now the first thing we're obviously going to do is wash our hands. That is the most important thing you can do. You don't want to spread any bacteria around. So I'm just going to go ahead and wash my hands. You want to do it in nice, hot, soapy water. Once they're washed, you want to dry them off. And now you can start the cooking process. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to weigh out the rest of our ingredients. Now I've weighed out the sugar and the yeast, both 10 grams, just here, in a pot. Now with the flour, we need 500 grams of flour, and we want to sieve it a couple of times. So what I do is I pop the bowl on the scales with the sieve in it and zero it, and then I can weigh out the flour straight into the sieve. Now I don't have quite enough flour in that bag, so we're going to have to open the other one. You can get any residue off the packaging. We don't want to make too much of a mess, because there's more when we have to clean up later on. So we're at 400 grams, so we just need another 100. Yeah, there we go. Then once we've got the 500 grams, you can then take away the scales, and we need to use them later, so just pop them aside. And then we're just going to sieve out the flour into this bowl. Now sieving it, yes, it does get the lumps out, but it's also to put air inside the flour. And of course we need as much air, try not to spill it all over the side like I am. We've got as much air as possible in this flour, so that it rises when we prove it. So I'm just going to sieve it the once now, because then when we add the rest into the bigger bowl later on, we can then sieve it there. So setting the sieve aside, we now have our flour weighed out. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to weigh out the butter. So you're going to need a chopping board, a knife. If you are a small kid, try and get your parents to help you out with this so you don't cut yourself. So I got my chopping board, got my knife, I've got my butter, and again, got my scales. So you just want to zero the scales because it would have been at a different weight last time with the bowl and the sieve on. And then we want to weigh out 20 grams of butter. $20 grams, roughly 31. Oh, that's a bit over. We then don't need the butter anymore, so you can then pop that back away in your fridge or wherever you keep it. Right, we're going to have to melt this butter down, so I'm just going to pop it straight in the saucepan over there. Now the next thing we're going to do is weigh out our milk. So we need 150 millilitres of milk and 150 millilitres of water. 300 millilitres of liquid. So that's our ingredients weighed out. Now we're going to go on to the cooking process and fermenting the first step. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to melt down this butter over a low heat. Make sure the best thing to do is not to stir it. So I'm just going to leave that aside. And then turn this down to a low heat. Remember, if you're a child, make sure you have your parents' supervision so you don't burn yourself. Right, now it's melted, we're going to take it off the heat. And we're going to add our milk and water. Make sure you get it all out. And we are also going to add our sugar. Make sure it's all out again. Make sure it's all dissolved in there. We're then going to get our large metal bowl and just pour it in. Not quite all dissolved yet. We need the sugar in there because that is what the yeast feeds on. So that's now in the bowl there, and we're going to allow that just to cool down slightly till it's around about 35 to 40 degrees or there or thereabouts. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to sprinkle over our yeast inside there, the 10 grams that we weighed out earlier. Again, making sure we get it all out. And then we're going to sieve in a quarter of our flour. So about a quarter. You don't need to weigh it out. You can roughly guesstimate what about a quarter of it is. Then sieve that in. And then we're just going to stir that in slightly, not that much, just slightly. And then this is the first stage of fermenting. So we just want to get it all off our spoon. So now what we're going to do is just going to make sure that's all in there, which it is, and we're going to cover it, and we're going to ferment it for about 30 minutes. So we're going to pop it, cling film over it, and then we're going to pop it into the proving oven. Alright, there we go. Half an hour in the proving oven there. Beautifully and fermented, as you can see right there. Just gonna knock it back slightly. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is grab our pinch of salt, pop it in, And then we want to get the rest of our flour and sieve that in. Make sure we get it all in there. And we're just going to sieve it in. Again, this puts the air in, ready for the proving later on. And then want to grab another spoon and just work it in slightly, just so we can start getting this sticky texture, the sticky dough. Just coming together now. Once it all comes together, which it almost has done, we can then start to use our hands. Just get this last bit of flour up. So we bind it all together as a nice dough. Almost got it all up. Right, once we've got all that up, just pop that aside there. So just want to grab a bit of the strong flour we had earlier. Not too much because we don't want to make the dough too dry. Lightly sprinkle it over the place. Get a bit on your hands, it doesn't stick to your hands. And then turn it out. So you want to start kneading it now. You want to knead it for about 10 minutes or so. The reason we knead it is we want to stretch the gluten. That's why we use strong flour, because the strong flour has more gluten than just plain regular flour. Therefore, stretching it, rising it, and the yeast will love it. So we just want to knead it until we get all that gluten. So there we have it, kneaded it. You can tell when you start getting it correct, because when you start folding the front to the back, you don't get any rips or any tears on the outside of the dough, around about here. See, I don't get any rips, don't get any tears, it's nice and smooth. So the next thing we want to do is keep it in that sort of shape, set it aside just there. Then you want to get a bowl, like this glass one for instance. You want to get some oil, for my case I'm using olive oil. Just pop a bit in the bowl. Once you've then done that, just pop the dough in, cover the outsides of the dough in the oil, like so. Grab some cling film and loosely pop it over the top. Nice and loosely, right on the edges. This gives it room to expand, because you want to get it to double the height that it currently is. You want it to expand by double. I'm roughly leaving it in the oven, in the proving oven, for around about an hour and a half to 2 hours. So like I just said, we're going to leave this ball of dough in the proving oven, and again around about 35 to 40 degrees for approximately an hour and a half to 2 hours. So I'm just going to set it on there for an hour and a half, come back and check it. If it's doubled in size, then we're good. If it hasn't, then we're going to have to leave it in for a tiny bit longer, which isn't too bad. So like I said before, it is a long, lengthy process because you have to do all the proving. So guys, it has finished proving. It's been in there about an hour. So it didn't actually need as long as we thought. It's well and truly doubled in size. So we just want to take it out and then we just want to give it a punch. That will knock all the air out, knock it back. Now in that hour, I've made and proved another piece of dough, ready to go in once that's on the tray proving. So once it's then knocked back, just want to get it away from the sides and onto the workbench. Then we just want to grab our tray. Once we've done that, just place that over there. And we'll grab some oil, pop it on the tray, just a small layer, and just rub it all over. Once we've then rubbed it all over like so, grab ourselves some of the strong flour again, and just place it on. Then we want to shake all the flour to cover the base of the tray. We're going to do it for 2. Any left over, just knock it into the bin or onto the workbench. Now what we're going to do is we're going to actually split this dough in half, and we're going to shape it to how we want it to come out of the oven, so we can prove it. So I want to do a little, like a roll type thing, making sure I go nicely on there. So that's that first one down, then onto the second one. It's best to give as much room as it can, as it is going to prove again. I'm going to rise and spread out like last time. Once we've got that, we then want to score the top. So you want to grab a knife. Again, if you're a small kid, you might want to get your parents to do this for you. So you want to just get a knife and score along the top, or whatever pattern you want to do. This allows the steam and any air to escape during the cooking process, so you can actually control where it escapes from, instead of it just blowing a hole out of the side and it not looking very pretty. So we're just going to score that, and then we're going to pop that back in the proving oven. I just need to pop a shelf in there. So just going to pop our 2 lovely bread rolls into the oven, into the proving oven. Okay guys, we've had our 2 breads for their second proof. What we're going to do now is pop them in the oven. The oven's been preheating on 220. Once we pop them in, we're going to reduce the temperature down to 180 and bake them until they're golden brown. You should be able to pick them up when they're cooked, tap on the bottom, and they should sound hollow. So let's get them in. So they're in. Now we're just going to reduce that temperature down to 180 and set a timer for 20 minutes, and then we'll come back and check them in just a minute. So the 15 minutes have gone by, and they're starting to go golden brown, but I don't think they're quite there. We're going to grab one out now and we're going to have a look. Okay guys, so I know that the 2 rolls that we've been producing are now done. Here's our first one. Nice golden brown, nice and hard. It's got good air inside, which is excellent. There's a hollow sound to the bottom, so what we're going to do is we're actually just going to place it on a wire cooling rack. Therefore the bottom won't get all hot and sweaty on the bottom, and it will stay nice and dry instead. And now we're just going to grab the second one out. Just here. Again, this one's a bit flatter. We did have an issue where the air didn't actually go out the holes on this one. I don't know why. It went out perfectly fine on this one, but it hasn't really made any difference apart from it stretched a bit at this end. So again, it's nice. It's a nice flat bread. It'd be nice for a starter, and we're just going to do the same and pop that on the wire rack there so the bottom doesn't get sweaty. There was a little bit that had fallen off there. It was actually really nice. So we're going to let it cool down slightly. Turn off that oven. I'm going to let them cool down slightly, and then I'm going to give them a try and see how they taste. the bottom one is in, and that one should be done in the next 20 minutes or so. So just stick the timer back on for that one. 20 minutes. By that time, these two should be cool enough so we can have a taste. Okay again guys, we've let it cool down slightly. The other one is still not quite ready, but these two are nice and cool. So we're going to cut into them. So I'm going to start off with this flat one. We're going to cut into them, we're going to cut an end off, if it will stay in place. Still rather warm inside, but as you can see there, it's got a good crumb structure, nice air pockets, not too big because we weren't making ciabatta, but that is actually a really good piece of bread. So let's go further in and cut towards the middle, just to make sure the middle is cooked. And there we can see that it is nicely cooked. And again, no large pockets. And that is a really good piece of bread. So let's cut ourselves off an actual slice we can taste. I like my bread nice, thick and buttery. Grab some butter. And that's what I still love about nice warm bread, because it's nice and warm and the butter just melts within the bread and seeps in and gives it that lovely buttery taste. So let's have a try on this for a bit and a half second. That is a wonderful piece of bread. Nice crusty crust. Bit of form there. That is nice and crusty, nice and soft in the middle. Butter seeping lovely. And that is a really good piece of bread. So there we have it guys. 3 lovely loaves of bread. This top one's now out of the oven. Nice big dense piece. Showed you trying me. I was trying that one. Very tasty. So I hope you enjoyed this video guys. I know something completely different, and I actually enjoyed making this video quite a lot. So give me your feedback on what you thought, how it went. Leave a like, a dislike, comment, just say whether you liked it or not, what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it, and if you did like it, what you would like me to make next. I'm fairly flexible on what I can make. So remember guys, don't forget to subscribe. See you next time. Bye bye.